Welcome to Mash and Carv Radio, the podcast of us, Mash and Carv, two college students who have been directly friends since middle school. You can find us online at www.spreaker.com/Mash and Carv Radio or on other media such as Apple or Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please enjoy this week's episode of Mash and Carv Radio. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mash and Carv Radio. I am Mash.
I am Carv.
And this is Mash and Carv Radio. Hello, it has officially been 1 month since our last recording, hasn't it?
I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while.
It definitely has been a lot of schoolwork, a lot of working, a lot of whole bunch of things going on, surgeries and, healing processes, all that good stuff going on. Oh yeah. Before we get started, I will say though, before we get started with this episode, I would like to say, just a bit of a shameless plug for me. If you guys are interested in all sorts of streaming and gamer content with myself, Mash, and Carv as well, please go ahead and you can give myself a follow on Twitch at MonsterMash20. That's twitch.tv/MonsterMash20. And also, just as a shameless plug, myself, I am sponsored. So I will say, Carv, have you ever been tired and some energy drinks just don't cut it out for you?
For sure.
Well, let me go ahead and enlighten you with that for W Energy Drink. W's Energy Powder is a powdered energy drink that replaces other inferior caffeine beverages, such as some other nameless brands that I will not go into detail about. It contains 0 maltodextrin, 0 fillers, 0 artificial colors or dyes, and no proprietary blends. The star of the show is their coffee fruit extract, which helps focus with no jitters or crash. Take it from me, I've been drinking their Big Energy Tears flavor, which is like a blue raspberry flavor. It smells like cotton candy, and it tastes like a blue raspberry Jolly Rancher. It's absolutely fantastic. So, if you want to save 10% off on your next order, as well as support myself and Carv when we stream and game, you may go ahead and go online and use the code MONSTAMASH. That is capital MONSTA, capital MASH, for 10% off your order. It is, trust me when I say this, it is really, really good. You guys are going to enjoy it. I've been drinking it for a couple months now, and I must say that it is one of the best energy drink powders that I've had in a while. Alrighty, now with that out of the way, time to we're going to change things up a little bit for this week's episode. So initially we were talking about our favorite genres and going a little bit into detail about that and explaining more about what each genre is, going into the details of how it functions and how they play. This time around, we're going to go a little bit more in depth about the video game industry, as well as understand what each individual department does, what they are, what are the production phases, and basically a little bit of some horror stories behind each individual gaming company. So, Carv, do you want to start this out? How much do you know about the gaming industry?
Not like a whole lot, but I mean, I've dove into it a little bit myself. When I was younger, I used to play around with like Unity and stuff. I always wanted to make like a nice like 2D platformer. never officially finished it. I remember there was one project I started. I wanted to make I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this huge first-person shooter game, and I'm gonna make it like I was intending for this to be like some huge thing. Like I was gonna spend like 10 years or whatever on this. A week maybe. I got like the camera to move. Like whenever I moved the mouse, I got the camera to move, but that's about it. That's all I could figure out.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt because I I mean, I'm going to school for this. I mean, I'm gonna be getting my bachelor's in this basically this upcoming May with taking one class online over the summer. But I kind of have had a side project going on that I've been coding in Godot, and I basically have been making my own little RPG that's kind of like a turn-based
Hmm.
RPG. But I haven't really pursued it that much. I just got like some of the basics down for I guess enemy combat, experience bars and stuff. But I still have to go a little bit further as far as fleshing out a little bit further.
Hmm.
And personally, it's been I think it's fun. I really do. I enjoy it a lot because if you have an idea that you want to make something and you have some programming knowledge, then you can just go right in, download download whatever sort of what is it, software or engine that you want, and be able to learn some code as you go. You can look. There are some really great tutorials out there that will be able to help you. Some of them not so much because it'll be an older version of the engine. I've run into that issue before with class, and overall, I think it's just an enjoyable time. It is. It's so much fun to think about something, have an idea, and run with it because you'll be able to. You never know. You could make something, have the art be fantastic because you have a great art team, a great art department, and it sell really
Hmm.
well. I mean, I sent you one of the prototypes of my games,
Yeah,
right, from one of my
yeah.
classes. And what are your personal thoughts on it?
I thought it was pretty cool. Um, just the one thing I think is really cool about, um, like, especially like individual people like making games is like it's really like all like I guess the game just like embodies kind of like the whole person's like vision behind it, I guess. Because like with your game, like
Mm.
honestly, like seeing it and like playing it or whatever, um, I don't. It honestly just seems like it's your type of game, you know. Like, um, it just seems like a game that you would love, and that I feel like also making it that way, you can also make it so like a lot of other people would like it too. Because a lot of other people might have the same sort of like, I guess like, um, what's the word I'm thinking of? Same like, I guess vision or whatever,
Preferences?
or same like, I don't even know what's the word. I don't even know what word I'm thinking of.
I thought you were thinking like preferences or, it fits what some people like to see as
Yeah,
far as
yeah,
games
yeah,
go, as far as like a simple game
yeah.
goes.
Like I feel like it's just like a game that like a lot of people would love to just love to play. 'Cause I feel like just playing it, it kind of like it would appeal to people who are also like I guess like you, like same sort of game, I guess.
Absolutely. And, when we were making this, it was pretty funny because the class really was a 400 level course. It was the class was a 419 course. And that basically how it started out was the professor started class and said, okay, well, I'm going to break you off into teams. You're going to be in these teams. You got to come up with a name and then you got to come up with a basis for a game. Go. And you're like, okay. And then me and this group of three other guys, two artists and one lead designer, leaving me as a single solitary programmer for the entire thing. And at first we were like, okay, let's go. And our main vision, we kind of wanted to have we did come up with the idea to make it like a Metroidvania, but we wanted to take some aspects of it to make it seem a little bit more like Super Castlevania 4, which basically that one added where Simon Belmont could use his whip and be able to swing. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like swing from gap to gap, from platform to
Yeah.
platform. And that one we had to actually cut that part out because I tried testing it several times, and I made sure the code was 100% good and working. It looked like it was reading, like the engine
Mhm.
read it, but then trying to run it, like actually run it and get it to work, it just wasn't working. It wasn't reading where my mouse was pointing, and it would just, like the character would just inch forward on the ground because all the chain was doing was pointing at the ground and not really following where the mouse was
Mhm.
pointing.
Yeah.
But I think overall, from a design standpoint, it came out really, really well. I mean, we added the thing that we were a little scared about was having two different, or at least for me, I was a little scared about was having two different attacks, like a ranged attack and a melee
Mhm.
attack. That was a little rough because I tried to make sure we had the hitbox for the melee attack, and make sure that the bullet had a decent hitbox so that it didn't, something weird
Yeah.
happened when you shoot, and then all of a sudden it crashes the game. Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong from a design standpoint,
Mhm.
and that that was especially really tough for me because one of our lead designer ended up he was in the military and ended up getting deployed like halfway through the semester.
Wow.
So yeah, so he sent like the last time we met, or he sent me a personal message or something. He looked at me and said, "Okay, you, Noah, I'm counting on you. You're gonna be my backup guy." And I'm like, What? What do you mean?" And at first, I was a little scared, you know, being the single solitary programmer, all of a sudden being, "Okay, you're in charge. You're gonna be the designer." I'm like, "Okay," you know. It's like, I don't know how I feel about this. But then, as the semester moved on, I was able to don that role a little bit better because then at that time there wasn't really a lot that I could do because I already had my scripts. I just needed to get the assets that the art department was working with and just apply those scripts to those assets.
Mhm.
So that wasn't a bit of an issue. The other issue that my group mainly ran into was stress, actually, because one of the fellows in the art department started to stress out because we were making cutscenes, and he was trying to do all these portraits for these characters, for the main character, for some of the enemies, for the big boss, for the like the well, I say the big boss, one of the first bosses, and then the main big bad final boss. And he was stressing out about these portraits, but I had to take him aside during class because we were getting back into groups, and I said, "Listen, don't worry about those right now. Worry about the other things. Worry about these because this guy is working on our human assets because we had humans and monster enemies. So one artist was working on humans and one artist was working on monsters, and the human guy was like, "Oh my god, I gotta get these portraits done." And I'm like, I go over to him like, "No, listen, it's okay.
Mhm.
Just get the assets done. Get the human assets done now, because we need that the most. We don't need the cutscenes until closer to the end with the beta build or the final build. We don't we don't need those yet. Just worry about this right now, and then we can move on." And as soon as I told him that, it was like a big relief off his shoulders. He was able to calm down and basically be able to get done some pretty amazing assets. I mean, they look fantastic.
Yeah. That's cool.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that was a little that I will say that is one of the caveats of being in this major and working with us, as well as just for any company, is something called overscoping. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't actually, no.
Really? Okay. What it means in the game industry standpoint is it's kind of like biting off more than you can chew
Mm.
in that sort of sense in the game industry world. Basically, you have all of these big ideas. You want to add them to your game. You're like, yes, this is all going to go great. It's going to fit in. It's going to be amazing. then you start to you got your MVP, which is your minimal viable product, which has some of the basic mechanics, like meaning like running if you're doing a platformer, running, jumping, walking, making sure that the platforms actually have a hitbox so you can stand on it and not fall through it, and that sort of thing. And then you get to alpha or beta, not alpha. It's alpha. Yeah, it goes alpha, beta, and then the final product. Sorry. Then you get to alpha, which is where you have to have most of your assets in, or some of your assets in, some of the if not all of the core mechanics in, and then beta is like more refined, all assets, everything's all set and ready to go, and then final build, you just minor tweaking for things. So when you're starting out, you have big plans for this stuff. You want to make sure you want to have like a cloaking ability. You want to have like I guess like a what's his name? Alucard from Castlevania, like some sort of weird after image shadow effect when he dashes backwards. But then you start getting to alpha after you're working with this stuff, and then you realize, uh-oh, we can't do this in the amount of time that we were given. So that's when you kind of have to cut back. Yeah, some things won't make it in, and you're left with once you get at the end, you're like, well, it's good, but it's not what we technically wanted it to be. So that's why overscoping, at least, is it's a prominent problem in the game industry sometimes.
Yeah. I
It's why working as an independent developer, if you were to go solo, it's really
yeah.
tough.
It's like it's one game that just came out recently. You've probably heard of it. You've probably heard me talk about it. Sons of the Forest. It's in early access right now, so they're like still like working on the game right now. Like what like all the mostly the main stuff is in there, but there's still like some tweaks that need to be done. I mean, the game might randomly crash every once in a while or something, but that's the big thing I've noticed is like there's like weird glitches sometimes. I've had like some enemies just kind of like floating. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, sometimes I get like weird like performance glitches, like it just won't run as good as it should. So, but then it'll go back to normal. So, but
Yeah, I have heard of it, and the things that I've seen is like the partner or whatever, just you write something down and show it to him, and then it'll randomly scream.
Calvin, I love Calvin. This dude,
Like he'll just randomly scream and freak you out, and it's just like,
this
what
this,
the F is
this dude,
happening?
he's great because you could literally you just write on your notepad. You could say, go get me some logs." Show it to him. He's deaf, so like he just goes. He just gives you a thumbs up, and then he just goes and does what he needs, and he just walks real weird, and he's a great asset. I
Oh
mean,
my
like
god.
he's awesome to have. Just don't build a tree house because he'll knock
Mhm.
the tree down that you're building the house on. So,
Mhm.
but Kelvin is great. Wouldn't be the same game without him.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely noticed that specifically online games tend to, and even just normal games now, like fighting games or what's another good example? Because I mean, fighting games is a big one. Elden Ring is another perfect example. They're still sending out in Hogwarts Legacy. They're still sending out patch notes
Mhm.
and stuff for games that have hit store shelves. And that's why this is one of the questions that I actually had as a part of one of my finals, which is, well, I don't know. Actually, no, I don't think it was a part of my final. Was it? I can't remember what it was a part of, but basically, I had the question of how is it possible that these games have these deadlines and are being shipped unfinished? You know, like as an industry standard, it shouldn't be that way. The game should be all set and done by then. Because, I mean, for us, we were able to make a fully functional prototype of a game within 15 weeks of class. I mean, with with a title screen, intro cutscenes, auto saving, and basically a losing screen, winning screen, all this stuff. And able to get it done within 15 weeks. And these large AAA companies with these games that have, several months out to almost a year out to get these games done, yet they're still sending out these patch notes, and the game's unfinished. And I know there are certain things that have, like, balancing issues, but, I mean, shouldn't that have already gone through quality assurance to make sure that everything's all set and
Yeah,
A-okay?
like you would think. Like I feel like especially when they're big, huge, like AAA title game companies, like they're obviously hiring out testers, like try out the games, and literally their job is to be like, okay, this happened, blah 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 blah. Literally tell the people the bugs so they could fix it and everything. Like you would think that there'd be enough, like I guess like checking as it's going to be like by the time like
Mhm.
it comes out, like it should be pretty much perfect. You would think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the reason why you have these quality assurance testers is so that they can do anything and everything in the game to find any sort of nitpick, running into a wall, rolling into a wall, shooting a wall, and then running into it, shooting the ground underneath you, shooting the sky, shooting a bird, running into a tree. Whatever is in the game, they should be testing and making sure everything that is in it functions and works
Mm-hmm.
properly, you know? And it's just, I don't really understand it because this is being seen more and more often, as well as developers not really taking note of what outside sources have to say for like a next iteration, a sequel of some
Mm-hmm.
sort. Like the example that I would give is Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. You know, because I mean, I have you played
I've
it?
played a little bit of it, yeah.
Have you played Yeah, have you played the demo?
No, not. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. What are your thoughts? What do you think of it?
Um, I liked it. I thought it was cool. Um, I mean, yeah, I only played it for like a little bit, but um, I don't really have too much to say about it. But um,
Mhm.
I mean, I thought it was all right. I thought it was decent. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, coming from me, I haven't played um the first one or the second Marvel vs. Capcom, but I played Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is like the pinnacle and like what many esports and many fighting game enthusiasts would regard as one of the best Marvel vs. Capcom games ever. I mean, it's gonna be at Evo this year.
Wow,
A, a game that was released several years ago for Xbox 360 and PS3 is gonna be at Evo on modern consoles.
that's cool.
Yeah, and I tried the demo out for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and for me, after playing Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I was able to immediately tell the difference between, you know, the games because shameless plug for Maximilian Dude. He's an amazing YouTuber. He does great competitive fighting game stuff. He does mainly Street Fighter, Killer Instinct, some Marvel vs. Capcom, some Mortal Kombat, King of Fighters, stuff like that. And something that he said was the way that the punches and hits land in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite doesn't carry a certain weight that it does in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Like, what he means by that is he literally did a side by side of Ryu in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Ryu in MVCI. And he had them basically just do a basic punch. And the difference is pretty drastic because in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, when you do that one punch, the entire screen jitters and shakes so that you feel the weight of that punch when it hits the opponent.
Hmm.
But when you see MVCI, you don't really feel that weight. It just looks like a punch.
Hmm.
It's kind of why, it's still kind of hard for me to get into Street Fighter because the way the play feels, I mean, it still carries that weight, but comparing to something like Mortal Kombat, like I've grown up with playing MK11, MKX, MK9, all those, it feels drastically different than with Street Fighter because I don't know if it's the sound effects or the visuals, but you can you hear and you feel that punch. I feel like more in Mortal Kombat than you would in Street Fighter, and you know that another aspect for MVCI comparing to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is some characters being left out.
Hmm.
Like, a lot of people wanted to have, and I was looking forward to seeing Wolverine in MVCI because I think he would have been amazing in that game. Nope, that didn't happen. We instead got a whole bunch of other characters that are kind of
Yeah.
forgetful. I didn't even know, but Black Panther is in the game. Did you know
Really?
that as a DLC
Really?
fighter?
It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that, but then I kinda saw his costumes and how he played, and I was like, ugh, because it was like, it's the same thing with, Captain America, like, just the visuals, they just look weird. It was like the, transition to, it's like with comic books, like Marvel Comics transitioning in the, I wanna say it was like the 2010s where they wanted this darker, grittier looking characters, and it showed like a comic panel of Captain America, and his chest was like this big, just like several feet out in front of his face, and it just didn't look
Yeah.
right. That's basically what Black Panther and Captain America in MVCI looked like. They just looked like big, buff, muscly, weird dudes, and it just didn't
So
look
weird. Like
right.
some art styles that people try to do, like they just don't work. Like it's not natural. Like don't not. It's like no, just make them look normal, please. It's like please.
That's actually kind of like just kind of one of the issues, or at least something that I've noticed with the differences between Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6. I mean, Street Fighter 5 looks pretty good. Not great, but it still looks pretty good for, a modern Street Fighter game. But Street Fighter 6 looks incredible. Have you seen any trailers on it or
No, I
anything?
haven't. No.
It Street Fighter 6 looks incredible. I mean, they kind of, I guess I'm gonna say some of the mechanics and the overall artistic feel of the game feels like they went back to their almost back to their roots of the meaning of Street
Hmm.
Fighter. So that's why, and when I say that, um, the art, basically the artistic style and feel of it is more, like a street. So there's the main feel and some of the moves that are incorporated have this like graffiti look to it and like spray paint and all this stuff to make it feel like, like a punk fight going on in a city or something.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting choice. At first when I saw it, I was a little like, I don't know if I like this. But then after watching a little bit, watching gameplay videos and competitive, basically some competitive when the beta was released, the game, the feel look, this just the overall gameplay and the feel of the artistic feel and the hits and everything, it actually looks fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a very gorgeous game.
Yep.
But some of the other aspects, especially for the gaming industry, that is a little tough. I'm still trying to, get a career in it. I've applied to several places, but still getting a couple of rejections, but it's all right.
Mhm.
um, but some of the things that you gotta take into account is before you even get into production, you have to get into the pre-production phase, which basically is identifying your team, giving yourself a name, and I would s I would say working your way towards identifying the game that you wanna make, the mechanics, the art style of the game, and, there's one big one that I was just thinking of, I forgot it. Oh, before even getting mechanics and stuff down, or, like, coding and stuff like that, you have to have a pre-production phase and get what's called the GDD, which is called the Game Design Document. And that is very, very important because that document tells you exactly what the title is, what is the main story of the game, what are the main functions of the game, what the characters are, and basically it's an in-depth detail about everything that is in the game and kind of describes it in a sense. It's almost like what is it like? What is it like? It's almost like if you want to compare it to a book, it's almost like a table of contents
Hmm.
because it kind of tells you, title of book, what the names of the chapters are, and what are some individual sub chapters within those chapters.
Cool.
And it's very important to make sure you do that because then that way you don't get to your production phase and then all of a sudden you're like, no, actually I want to change this. And you get your or your lead designer and says, no, this is what we're supposed to be doing. Look at the GDD. This is what we're supposed to be doing. We can't change that. And it is very, very important to make sure you have all of that down during the pre-production phase. Because if you just start off with something off the top of your head, it's very, very likely that once you start and get into the production phase, that you might change some
Wow.
things. Because it's kind of like cooking, actually. Because if you start making something, you can't just change something halfway through. You can't be like making a cake and then all of a sudden be like, no, actually, I can only make pizza now,
Or change
and
the
like try to
flavor.
flatten out. Exactly, yeah. You're trying to make a chocolate cake, and then you're like, wait a minute, no, I want to make it key lime.
Literally.
It wouldn't
Yeah,
work. It wouldn't work, and that's why having a good designer is, very, very important, because if you have a good lead designer, then they'll be able to be there for you and help you work your way through everything. Because the biggest thing well, at least for me, that I was raised with, and it kind of bugged me about my other class with, video game design studio, is communication.
definitely.
Communication in any sense, any job, any career, whatever the heck you're doing, it's very, very important. And if you have a question and you're trying to, you know, reach out and get an answer, you should get an answer. You shouldn't get, you know, zero response or people hemming and hawing, you
Mhm.
know? Because that was something I experienced in class. And as a programmer who still doesn't have a lot of experience with some engines, that's not what you'll look forward to, you know? That's not how you be a leader. That's
Mhm.
not how you be a lead.
Definitely.
Because it's like, because it would be as if, you know, you're starting a brand new job. Let's say you started teaching for the first time, and you don't really know how to set up a curriculum. So you try to get some help from some fellow teachers, and all they say is, you guys set up a curriculum.
Like, that's helpful.
Well, how do you? Yeah, it's just like, how do you? Well, it's just sitting there and you're thinking, well, how do you set up a
Mhm.
curriculum? They're like, well, you just set one up. Like, that's not what I'm looking
It's like, "Could
for.
you show me, please?"
Yeah, exactly. And having a good lead and having good communication is a must in this industry, I think. And it's very hard to convey that in college, I think, because at least for me, I'm doing a lot of things every which way, and if I'm designated a task, I will eventually get to it. So when I'm getting ready to go do my task and I ask a question to get help with it, I should be able to get some help with it. I shouldn't get like a hemming and hawing, like, well, if you look at the document, it'll, you know, and because I didn't have time to look at the document. I'm over here working basically 3 jobs and trying to pay off bills and trying to go to class and do all this, that, and the other. And to be able to take time out of my day to look at a document to see exactly what I need to is a little tough. I mean, that's a little, I know this is petty thinking, but at the same time, if I didn't look at the document, I can admit that I didn't and say, "Well, I didn't really look at the document. I could say, "Well, I didn't really look at the document," and they either can say, "Okay, well, that's fine. I'll just explain it to you in very basic detail," or they say, or I would say, "I didn't look at the document. Would you mind giving me a little bit more details about what it actually is?" Instead of, "Well, you should have looked at the document, then you would be a little bit better off,"
Mhm.
That because that way of thinking, it's not the best way of thinking, you know?
Yeah.
Because not everybody's gonna have time to look at that. I mean, later on, maybe if you have more free time and are starting your career, then yeah, you're gonna have a little more time because 'cause you're not really worrying about getting your assignments done. You're more worried about paying your bills and making sure yourself is fed.
Yeah.
But but I digress. Something something that I would say is, also really nice to have is just a good foundation for your group. When you get together, introduce yourselves, get some of the icebreakers done to make sure, hey, we're all in this together. Most of us don't know what we're doing. We're just having fun. Let's do this. But for the career standpoint, I know most people are gonna be like, yeah, you know what you're doing. You know what you got to do. Let's do this. And if you have questions about something, you can go to your lead or talk to some of the other departments who may have some of the answers to your
Mhm.
question, you know? Because if you don't have good communication and you have other aspects, then that's not what makes a team, you know?
Yeah, I feel like a big thing, especially with the um game development industry, is like if there's not good communication, like I feel like everything within a game is so like intricately like intertwined. Like if something's not communicated, like I feel like the game's just not gonna work. Like I feel like the vision over everybody has to be like the same. Um, even like it doesn't matter what part of the game you're doing. Like I feel like the vision needs to be the exact same because if somebody's vision is a little bit different, then I mean, that might change the whole way that the game feels or looks or whatever it is with the game. It's just not gonna be the same, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I just wanted to bring up because I've been kind of thinking about this. If you were to be in this industry yourself, what's I get okay, so I guess a couple questions. So, what kind of uh what kind of engine would you want to work with? And if you were to be a programmer, what kind of engine would you want to work with? And what department would you say that you want to work with if you were to go into that industry?
Um, I don't really know like a specific engine, but I feel like a lot of games are made in like the Unreal Engine. I feel like that's a pretty popular one. Um, I don't know if it's like easy to work with or whatever, but I would probably do it in that just because the games that I'm pretty sure that I know are made in Unreal Engine are are like stunningly like beautiful, and they seem to run great too. Um, and then I'd say for department, honestly, I'd want to be like, I guess I'd say it's like maybe like the design team, just like figuring out what the game should look like and how like the mechanics and everything should work. Um, I definitely would love to be like part of like the whole like creative, yeah, the creative aspect of the game, like to portray like how the game should like feel, and like if a game that I'm making, if somebody was to play it, I would definitely want it to be like one of a kind. Like I would definitely want them to be like, oh, this is like something new and like innovative. Um, so like just getting to be behind the creative aspect of the game and the mechanics and everything. I think that's definitely what I would want to work on.
Very nice. Yeah, that actually seems like a very good goal. Because then, you'd still be kind of behind the brains of the game a little bit. Because then you have some creative control in, how the game should look, how it should run, the layouts of, say, a level or stages, and, be able to actually accurately depict and understand and have the baseline for the overall artistic feel, the artistic look,
Mm-hmm.
programming how that should feel as far as, like, button input, hit stun, hit boxes, hurt boxes, and, things like that. That is very cool, and I would also say, because I have been doing a little bit of job searching, another engine that they've been using a lot too has been Unity.
Oh, okay.
They're look Yeah, a lot of game companies today are looking for a lot of people that know how to use not only Unreal, but Unity as
Okay.
well.
There's another one I'm
'Cause
thinking of. I don't know the name of it. There's another one I'm thinking of, but I don't know.
w is it more 2D or 3D?
I think it's still 3D. Yeah, still 3D.
Okay.
There's another one I'm thinking of. I've
Do you know what it might start with?
No, I have no. I'm trying to think of. I don't know. I'm just
That's
thinking
alright.
of like a. I don't
Um,
know.
well, there are quite a few game engines, but I would say some of the basic ones are, Unity, Unreal, Godot, GameMaker. I know Construct 3 is one of them. That's more of like a more basic learning game engine. Uh, I think of other ones. 'Cause I know I've never seen or used Amazon Lumberyard or a CryEngine. Never heard of that.
CryEngine. That's it.
Oh,
It's
CryEngine? What one for use platform?
aren't they the ones that?
Go
Aren't they the
ahead.
ones? Isn't that what was made in? CryEngine 4 or something?
CryEngine. Yeah, actually, it's how they made Crisis, Rise, Son of Rome, Hunt Showdown, and Far Cry, actually.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the other one I was thinking of.
Oh, interesting. It's the programming languages are C++, Lua, and C Sharp.
Hmm,
I didn't know that.
cool. I could do that.
Yeah, I've never. Um, I could do that too. I didn't know that that was an engine. I guess I've never really paid attention to that. I mainly paid attention to, like, I guess the developer Cryware, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because that was the one that I thought of was Cryware. I don't know. If that's a producer, developer, or something?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
It might be a producer, but if you were to make, let's say, if you were to make a game in the industry today, if you were part of a company, what kind of game would you want to make?
I'd probably definitely do an RPG. Um, and I'd probably make it like just because of my love of Fallout, I'd probably make it that type of game, like very much thrown in the middle of a world and like there is a main story, but you don't have to do it right away. And I'd probably definitely make it like
Uh-huh.
post-apocalyptic. Um, I don't know where I'd have it set up or anything, but definitely like a post-apocalyptic RPG. And I would very much make it like I would definitely give the character or like the player like the freedom to make the character whatever they would want them to be, like forge their own path, I guess, type of thing. Um,
Uh-huh.
so like definitely there's um there's a main story, but also I guess kind of like make your own story type of thing too.
Yeah.
So probably something along those lines.
Cool. Would you want it to, so when you say something like Fallout, would you want it to actually be, when you say post-apocalyptic, do you want to actually have it be that with after an atomic bomb going off? Or are you thinking more, when I think post-apocalyptic, something along the lines of like a zombie apocalypse or something like that?
Yeah. Um, I'd probably do like a yeah, I'd probably do I don't know if I would do a nuke maybe, but maybe I would do like a after like some sort of like World War or something like I guess like two sides like fought it out in some land and like what's left is like a wasteland and a bunch of old like I guess a bunch of like little governments and all that and little towns and like I guess like tribes type of thing. Um and like you don't fit into like any sort of like specific group, but as you go through like you meet like all different types of different groups of people and everything. You can join a side or not
Okay,
join.
so you gotcha. So kind of like, I guess, the faction sense of like, I guess you could say Walking Dead in a sense, like a faction sense like that, but guess like a post-apocalyptic world functioning similarly to the first thing I think of. I don't know if you've read it, but The Road, something like that.
I haven't read that book, no.
Okay, it's a really good book. It does take place taste. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world with this father and son. Um, something happened with like maybe possibly nuclear warfare or something, and they're trying to go and survive, but they keep running into bandits and
Okay.
stuff. So I think I kind of get that. Basically, you have the factions and divided cities and divided peoples, but there aren't really. Would you have monsters, or would you have just people trying to go against each other, just who are, like, frantic because of the collapse of
I'd
government?
probably have like a lot of it mainly being like people and like raiders and stuff. But I feel like because
Mhm.
it would be like after like a war, I feel like there would be nukes. So like there could be like like certain like higher radiation spots. I guess I could have like some like mutated like monsters and stuff. Because I know Fallout has all sorts. They have like the weird geckos and stuff, and the super mutants and all that. So I could do stuff like that. But I feel like it'd mainly be more so like people. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So I would say something along the lines of the Rage games, I guess,
Okay. Yeah.
'cause Rage, it kind of follows alongside of that. I know Rage 2 tried to follow in the footsteps of Borderlands a little bit, so it's a little bit more, I guess, Mad Maxy, but, original Rage definitely felt like Fallout with mutants and people against people, and definitely feeling way more apocalyptic.
Yeah.
That one was the first one was pretty good. It was I haven't played it, but I watched somebody play it, and it was good and it was gritty.
hmm
I mean, Rage 2 definitely tried to be like Borderlands and tried to do something a little bit different, try to have some sort of like Mad Maxy feel to it with, bandits and cars and like spray paint and stuff like that.
hmm Yeah.
From what I've seen, I haven't played it, but yeah, it seems pretty cool as far as the game design goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely do something along those lines. Cause like I'm almost thinking kind of like Last of Us too. I feel like Last of Us is more. It's very much more very story driven. Like it's a single story you have to follow. So I would probably do
Uh-huh.
a world like Last of Us, but in the way that like Fallout does the game, I guess. Um. So
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that'd be very interesting. Um, if I were to see this on a document, maybe, it'd be a little bit harder to get a little bit easier to get the idea more
yeah.
concrete. I know I have two ideas that I'd like to have come to fruition. Both of them are kind of Metroidvania titles. One of which I want to have transformations. Like, I want the character to have transformations, kind of like how Wario Land 4 had transformations for him. Like, he could become a zombie, he could be engulfed in fire and be like a fire version of himself. Um, I can't remember the other ones, but there are a few transformations that that Wario has in Wario Land 4. And I kind of want to have something like that in my game. But instead of having, on fire, zombie, something like that, I kind of want to have vampire, werewolf, and something like a super mode, I
Mhm.
guess, is what I wrote down. That's the first game. And the second game that I kind of want to make is a kind of following the footsteps of Shovel Knight a little bit, but instead of being medieval, I kind of want it to be sci-fi and be with instead of knights being with bounty
That would
hunters.
be cool, actually. I feel like that would work very much,
Mhm.
like sci-fi. Um, would it be like in the art style of like Hollow Knight?
Uh, Shovel Knight, because for me, I really like the pixel art
hmm
style because from what I've noticed and what I've read, a lot and for the audience that it'd be appealing to, a lot of people really, really like that pixel
hmm
style versus, I know it's kind of like a toss-up for people because I know some audiences really like the hand-drawn art, animated style, so, I guess you could say the Guilty Gear Strives, the, Dragon Ball Fighters, stuff like that, where it looks 3D, but it's still kind of, like, hand-drawn
hmm
out in 2D, like Hollow Knight as well, but, then there are other people, kinda like myself and my cousin, who really like the pixel style of, the Shovel Knights and, um, what's one? Bloodstained Curse of the Moon and all those NES style looking games, Shantae, something like stuff like that. I think a lot of people also enjoy.
hmm Yeah, I do like the pixelated style. I feel like with the sci-fi that would look really cool. Um, it kind of reminds me because the Shovel Knight art style is kind of like Terraria. Um, like that type of art style. I do like it. It's really cool for games. It's like unique, you know.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and, it's a very good it really is a great way for people to, I guess, like, confuse them too, 'cause, you can start with concept art that looks amazing and hand drawn, but then your vision and the way that you create the art, like create the in-game assets, can be completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Shovel Knight, the hand-drawn art, just the regular art for Shovel Knight in general, look amazing, and you would look at it and think, "Wait a minute, this is a modern game that's in a pixel form? Really?" And it's amazing, and I really do love that kind of a fake out that you can give people.
Yeah, definitely.
But, I will also say, the same kinda goes for fighting games a little bit. I know a lot of them went into the 3D realm where they have 3D assets, but some of them still have, you know, 2D fighting. So, Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, they have 3D assets, but, you can't really move within the 3D plane.
Yeah.
'Cause I know it from a visual standpoint, it looks pretty good, but at the same time, there's something really nice and nostalgic about having everything pixel and kind of flat with no I don't wanna say no real depth, but kind of that depth where it makes you feel like you're there with, destructibles and, interactables and stuff.
Hmm. Definitely.
What would you in your opinion, what would you say is a, bit of caveat for some games that are being designed and created today?
Caveat as in like something I don't like.
What not something that you don't like, but what is something that is being more prevalent now in today's games that is vastly different from what they used to be?
Um, I feel like more so. I feel like older games. I feel like they didn't make them like as big. You know, like I feel like games were more so. Like I feel like now games there's just so much to them. Like they're so multi-dimensional. I guess like there's so many different aspects and all that to them. Where I feel like games like I miss games like Mario, like Super Mario Bros. Like I feel like that game's so simple. Like it's not so super complex. Like I do love the super complex games that are coming out now. Like I think of like a complex game as like Fallout or um even like some of like the newer Assassin's Creeds. Like I feel like there's like just so much to them. Like
Mhm.
it's just not like your simple like put in a um put in like a cartridge into like a DS and you can just sit down and play simple levels like for hours. Like it's like the games are just so grindy now. Um, but I will say if they do it right, like if they make a big game right, you could spend hours upon hours like in the story of the game. But I do definitely miss like just simple games like Super Mario Bros. Or I mean like even Pokemon. Like the concept of Pokemon is so simple. You just go. You want to take out the gym leaders and you want to catch Pokemon. That's literally what the game is. Like it's so simple. Like but it's
Yeah,
like fun at the same time.
absolutely, and, that brings me to actually a really nice point. It feels like the standard for games today, or at least from what I've seen, is some form or aspect of open worldness. Like, you see it
Hmm.
everywhere with Super Mario Odyssey, you see it with Elden Ring, you also see it with Sonic Frontiers, you see it with, what's another open world game?
Halo Infinite's open world now, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, Halo Infinite, that's actually a great example. I mean, that just seems to be the standard now, whereas, you know, if you look at, again, original Super Mario or Mega Man, Castlevania, Metroid, you have these predisposed levels about you, and you kind of know where you're supposed to go. But I don't know if this pertains to anybody, but for me at least, it's if you put me in an open world place, I am not gonna know where the heck I'm supposed to go. I'm really not. And I know a lot of people from what I've heard on other podcasts and shows and reviews are markers, the annoyance of markers and things telling you where to go. But for me, in an open world game, it helps. Like, that type of thing really
Mhm.
helps because then you can see how far away the objective is, and you have a clear direction where you're supposed to go,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, without it, like,
The gr
you don't know where to go. Like, there's so many games where it's like, tell me where this next mission objective is, and I'll go to it. Without it, I don't know where the heck I'm supposed to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, the same thing kinda goes 'cause I read this, and I'm probably gonna go to, the Game Developers Conference and talk to, Santa Monica Studios about this, but apparently, for people today, there's a huge like, I say huge, there's a big problem that people have with, um, their allies being with them and giving them hints of how to solve puzzles.
Yeah.
And I'm I know exactly what they're talking about because I personally experienced that in, Jedi Fallen Order.
Mm. Okay.
That one specifically, it wasn't really, what's his name, BD1. It wasn't really the droid that was doing it, it was just Cal himself. This when I was on Zepho, I think it was Zepho. Yeah, maybe, I don't remember. It had the Zepho technology in it. But basically there was a puzzle that I had to do, where I had to move an orb somewhere, and it just was not clicking, and he just constantly told you about what you had to do, and it drove me insane. I mean, games today have that, and it's very, very, very
Hmm.
annoying. What I would say as a way to fix that would be to have the player get introduced to that puzzle in the beginning, you know? Have a message pop up that says you'll find these puzzles around, and have yourself mentally try and fix it and figure it out. Don't really have any sort of indication to show what to do until a certain amount of time has passed, I would say.
Yeah.
If it's been if it's been 5 minutes, I don't wanna hear somebody say, "You know, um, if I move that circle over there, then something should happen."
Yeah.
I don't every 5 minutes, I really don't wanna hear
Hmm.
that.
I think I remember.
'Cause that's
I was
again.
gonna say I feel like the Batman Arkham games kind of had that too. Like Batman himself would be like, um, if I shoot my grappling hook up here, I should, I don't know, whatever, like something would happen, or just tells you like what to do, or like be like, if I scan this with my detective mode or whatever, it'll maybe pop up a clue or something, and it's like, okay, all right, whatever. It's like, I'll do what you say, Batman.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's for me, from what at least I think what I like, and I don't know about many other people, but from what I like as far as, learning how to do a puzzle or something, is having those aha moments, but have it be in forms of, like, messages, like in-game messages, because 'cause I've seen it in there are several games that kinda do this, but the one that's sticking out in my brain right now is Metroid Dread, because when you're playing that game, you're not Samus doesn't say anything. She's not like, "Well, maybe I should go over here." You know, you're figuring out and you're going through the levels yourself, and there are going to be certain indicators, like the very first time you perform an attack parry, it slows it down and like stops it almost and says, press this button to parry specific attacks, and then press this button for a counterattack. And then you do it, action resumes, you perform the action, and you're able to do the counterattack. So then as a player, you think, oh, that's so cool. I'll keep that in mind. You know? I mean, you don't want to have that message pop up every 5
No.
seconds when you're going to have this happen. It's basically once in the beginning and done,
Yeah.
I think. One and done, because then you'll be able to figure it out. You'll have like a muscle memory in a sense.
Yeah, like show me how to do it once and then
Because
I should remember.
yeah, because then if absolutely, because if you have an ally or the main character saying what the solution is out loud, then you're not really exercising your brain.
Definitely.
And that's why I think I like the Metroidvania games a lot, because they make you exercise your brain and, puzzle solve and figure out how to get through a certain portion of a level. They make you think, okay, how do I defeat this boss? How am I gonna get this power up? What specific upgrade am I gonna need? And I know that's for me, and I know it's for certain other people too, it's up to a certain extent. You know, I don't wanna be so clueless and lost to my own wit's end trying to discover this puzzle that I end up getting so frustrated and bored with the game that I just have to be like, "Alright, I'm done." 'Cause then you're kinda losing a key you would be losing your audience a lot
Definitely.
faster.
Yeah.
Mhm. I definitely think open world, while it's nice, it should still kinda be restricted, kinda like, I would argue very similar to, I guess, Lego Batman 2, because that was one of the first open, if you wanna call it open world games that I ever played.
Okay.
Because it is, the basis hub of the game is Gotham City,
Yeah.
and as the heroes, you're running around Gotham City, and you have to fly or, drive and go to Arkham, or drive to Ace Chemicals, or go to the Wayne building, the Wayne Business Building, or go to this downtown square where Lex Luthor's election is being held. And to still have that feeling of open worldness, but in a more confined area, would help players and game developers a lot, because if you make a world as vast and as big as Minecraft, or as big as Elden Ring, without any real indication of what to do or where to go, I feel like you're gonna lose that player base. And that's not to say that, Minecraft has a specific objective. You can basically do whatever the heck you want in that game. I just, from a personal perspective, from what I've seen with open world games, it feels as though if you're dropped in there, there's really no clear indication where you're supposed to go. And because you don't have that indication, you start wandering around, you get lost, you may find something that you can't do, or something that is way higher in level than you, and you just get destroyed. And then the game just doesn't become fun anymore.
Yeah. I think Assassin's Creed 2. I think that's the game I'm thinking of. It's very much like there's the big open world, but when you go to like do a mission or something, it all of a sudden gets restrictive. Like you have to stay in a certain area to do that mission. And like once you leave that area, I think it'll desynchronize you or like kill you. I think it'll do. Um, so like when you accept a mission, like you have to stay in that area and get the mission done. Because if you don't, you're gonna die. So
Hmm. That actually is a great idea. Actually, now that I think about it, because if you have a specific quest line that you go doing, and you get to a specific portion where you have to, you know, you have to complete something, and if you try to walk outside of that, it auto kills you or you instantly fail the mission. I think personally, that's a great
mhm,
idea because then you have to stay in that area and you have to make sure that you don't leave because if you don't leave, then you won't be able to get those goody goody
mhm.
points or get the rewards that you want.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I, I think Destiny, I don't know, Destiny doesn't really do that because Destiny is, oh, I would say it's definitely open world because you can fly to different planets and walk around them, but it's still kind of confined in the sense that there are certain areas of that planet that you can go.
Yeah.
And even then, you can come across points that says not return of the mission, but get back to the planet or whatever, like return or something like that. And I think that's a really good design as well. Have it open world where you can basically travel to planets and stuff, but kind of restrict the locations of where you're able to go on the planet. Because if you're able to have like free roam of the planet, you can get lost for hours.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
That's why that's why I or at least my family and I when we're playing, we always try and stick and find this guy Zur who always has this exotic gear because he always goes to different places.
Yeah.
Oh man. But what are some other aspects I would say for games nowadays that I'm trying to think that I've particularly seen season passes. Have you Do you know what I'm talking about when I say season passes?
Yes, like as in like if you get the season pass, you'll get like certain items and everything.
Yeah, not only that, but access to like I mean, you can kind of do it with I mean, fighting games are doing it now too. Because it's not just shooters. Shooters are basically where the season passes started.
Yeah.
Where if you get the season yeah, because if you get the season pass, then you get this, very rare weapon, this cosmetic, and, a whole bunch of other stuff that's, quote, locked behind a
Hmm.
paywall. And fighting games are starting to do this too. They basically have a season pass. They have season pass, or they have a season pass, if not season passes, that allow you to get access to a whole bunch of other DLC characters. And me personally, I think that it kind of bugs me that those are a part of
Hmm.
that. Because why why design these characters and hide them behind a paywall? Why not do the Super Smash Brothers thing? Why not have them be a secret character after you do a certain thing, and then you can unlock them and fight
Hmm.
them? And then once you fight them, then you actually unlock them on this character select
Yeah.
screen. Because if you're locking them behind a paywall, then a lot of players aren't going to want to buy that character because they're like, "Well, I just want the base game. This character looks cool, but he costs a little bit of extra money. and I'm on a budget right now, so I can't really pay that
Mhm.
much.
Definitely.
What are some what are some other games that you've seen that have, a season pass? Because I know Super Smash Brothers has done it, Mortal Kombat's done it, Street Fighter has done it.
Um, Honestly, the biggest game I'm thinking of right now, I wouldn't say it's particularly a season pass, but battle pass. I'm gonna say Fortnite. That's the biggest game that I can think of that does
Yeah.
it. Um, and they have battle passes because they've been doing. I think they do like seasons now or whatever, and each season comes with its own battle pass, and you have to pay a certain amount of money. And as you progress through like levels and everything, like you get this item, you get this item, you get this item. It's like I understand like it'll keep people engaged, I guess, but it's another X amount of money that people have to pay. Or like Fortnite's free, so like it's like I guess pay whatever however much it is and like get some cool cosmetics or just play the game for what the game is and not really care about the cool skins and everything. I mean, like
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It's one of, kind of my family's gripes a little bit with, Destiny, is the game itself is free, but if you wanna do anything at all that pertains to the game that has, like, some sort of story, you have to get the expansions.
mhm,
And, I mean, my family and I collectively have logged, you know, hundreds of dollars downloading the expansions.
yeah,
'Cause, I mean, some of them were on sale, thank goodness, but, I mean, to lock your to specifically lock your content behind a paywall is I don't know, it's a very greedy way of thinking about it, and it makes this when you look at it from a designer's standpoint and a developer's standpoint, it it makes it seem as though you have you're promoting an unfinished game, and to get the rest of the game, you're paying for it.
yeah,
It's like the EA memes you
mhm,
see,
definitely,
where it's just like the base game, and then you get, like, this character, and then, cosmetics, and then music, and a certain stage.
yeah. It's like it's like never needed,
It's
but it's just like a cool to thing have, and it's like well, if I got an extra $15 laying around, like I guess I'll get it type thing. But I just don't.
absolutely, and I mean, I
I was just gonna
go
say
ahead, sorry, I
I
didn't mean
don't
to cut
think
you
they
off.
should like push it as like I guess like needed. I guess because I feel like some games do that. Like they push it as like you need this type thing. Like I guess with Destiny is a way
Mm.
of doing it. Like what you were saying, like yeah, you can play Destiny, but if you actually want to like do like a cool story or something, you have to buy an expansion pack. And it's like, well, it's like I don't want to spend that much right now because they're expensive.
Yeah, I mean, Witch Queen is still going for the base amount of money of
That's
$60
a
right
full game
now.
right there.
Exactly. It's it's pretty crazy how much these DLCs and, expansion passes are going. I mean, let me a a really good example, is Mortal Kombat 11, because the base game, from what I'm seeing right now, is $50, but with all the other expansions for, like, um, getting characters, and this is not counting the discount, 'cause it's on discount right now, but the base game is 50 bucks, but then the 2 combat packs for characters are 20 bucks and 15 bucks, and then to get the added story expansion is another 40 bucks. So, if you're taking that into account, 50, 40, that's $90 right there, plus another 20, 35 bucks, you're s you're dropping almost $120 on a
hmm
game.
Like, that's crazy.
I mean, just to have an expanded story and all the DLC characters. I mean,
Crazy. Like $60 is enough for a
yeah,
base
that's
game. Like, don't make me spend another 60 to like do just a little bit more.
exactly. And that's why, at least for the newer console generations, what I'm seeing is the price is up by like $10. So instead of being the base price being 60, it's gonna go up to
That's
70.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous.
And, yeah, I know. I mean, taking a look at taking a look back at games, I mean, 3DS games were cheaper than that. They were
Yeah.
$40. And I wanna say that Wii games were even cheaper than that, right?
Yeah, I feel like
Or they are
I feel like it depends on the game.
mhm,
Yeah, but I feel like games were just cheaper in general back then.
absolutely.
I mean, $60, I mean, even now is a lot. And then, yeah, a lot of games are going to be going up to $70, which is like, wow, just, it's a lot of money to fork out. I mean,
It also has to do I would say it also would have to deal with, you know, I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of, scalpers nowadays. Basically, people who see something that is a product and know that a lot of people want this product and just mass purchase it and then resell it for a higher value. To me, that is that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, come on, because I mean, yeah, it's for a specific audience, but at the same time, you're basically limiting the amount of this product that this people can get. That's why back in, a couple years ago, we had, you know, PS5s and Xbox Series X's going, like, not even being in stores
hmm
anymore
yeah, everybody was buying them and tripling,
because it's
selling them for triple the price. It's like, come on, seriously.
uh yeah. I mean, what I saw when I pre-ordered Metroid Dread, the first thing I saw, because 'cause I'm a part of a Facebook group for Metroid, and, somebody posted something of, like, I think it was on eBay or Best Buy or something, of the game, of, like, the special edition version of the game, which is, like, if I remember correctly, it goes usually for, like, $100, because the standard edition is 60, but then if you get to, like, the deluxe edition or legendary edition that comes with additional stuff, it's, like, $100. But I saw that there was a legendary edition going up for auction on I think it was up for auction on eBay or something, and it went up to, like, $2,000
It's so crazy.
for a $60 game.
So crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the people that have the time and the money to do this is insane because, I don't know, the people today, it's just sad because as a consumer and as a person who's going into this industry, when I see something like that, is gonna make me think, "Well, I might as well increase the amounts that's gonna be produced." I don't wanna have any shortcomings with that.
Yeah.
Because if you're producing, and releasing a game, it should be on store shelves in a decent amount of
hmm
quantity. Because if you don't have if something is on store shelves in a low amount of quantity, then a lot of people are gonna be missing out.
hmm
I mean, yeah, I know there's digital versions, but at the same time, some people, like myself, like the sentimental value of having a case and being able to, you know, see the cover and then turn it over and read the back. So that you can read some of the blurbs, see some screenshots of the game, and also see how many players it needs, how, how many players can play locally if it has local multiplayer, and if anything, how many players can play online if it has online
Yeah.
multiplayer. So that's what I see, and just the fact that so many things, not just games or consoles or anything, are out there and people panic buy or they scalp them and sell them for double, triple the price. It's insane. And it makes a game developer like myself or a game programmer, engineer look at that and say, okay, well, if this is the market that I'm going to be appealing to, then I'm for sure I'm going to make sure that there's going to be a lot of my product out
Hmm.
there.
Yeah. I do miss seeing all the discs and everything. I just feel like they don't sell as many discs and stuff anymore. So I mean, like they sell a lot of digital versions of consoles now and everything. It's like I understand. I mean, I guess like you're not wasting as much money, I guess, like companies by making discs and stuff. But it's like people like to collect them and stuff. Like there's just something about having an actual physical copy, you know. But
And it saves space on the console too.
hmm.
Because if you're getting the disc, then you're just installing some of the software, which is like almost half, if not more than that, of data that needs to be saved to the console.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're just buying the game straight up, it's digitally, it's a lot more space. I mean, for example, one of the games that I can think of is Red Dead. Red Dead 2 is like almost 200 gigs.
Crazy.
Yeah, for a digital copy of a
Hmm.
game. But if you had a physical copy, it probably would only be like a few gigs.
Yeah, fit most of it on the disc.
Well, I say, yeah, I was gonna say, well, when I say a few gigs, I would say something like
Yeah.
45-ish gigs. Something reasonable
Hmm.
like that. And that brings me to another point of like games having to be installed from a physical disc instead of just popping it in and playing it.
Hmm.
You know what? I don't get like what is it installing? Like all the data is on the disk. Why does it need to install
Yeah.
something? Do you know that?
I just think like
Do you know the answer to that
I
question
just
though?
think it's like games are just so big now that like discs can only hold so much of it. So like there's a good portion of it on the disc, but like the game's just so big that the rest of it's got to be downloaded. It's like it's honestly like it sucks nowadays because let's say you don't have internet connection, but you want to play a single player game. Like you don't need internet or anything to play it. But in order just to initially download it, you have to have the internet because it's got to download the rest of the game. Like you used to be able to download or buy a single player game, pop it in, and could play it without internet connection. But now games are so big that they have to download the rest of it onto the console. Like it just makes it a lot harder, I guess, for people to play.
Absolutely. And I mean, that that makes a lot of sense actually because the format of the disk holding all the assets, the way that things are rendered, the way that the company is taking into account the generation of consoles, so how high of quality that the frames per second have to be, the shading, the lighting, the smoothness of animations, particle effects and stuff like that. Um, that makes sense. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still to this day, I have my I have GameCubes, I have Nintendo 64s, I have DSs and stuff like that where it's the games are as simple as pop it in and play.
Mhm.
There's no, download time or anything, no updates or anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just gonna get worse as far as, if we look further and further into the future. I feel like it's gonna get to the point where, as silly as it sounds, you know, if game companies don't, if they just get lazier and lazier, that they get to the point where when it comes to the time to have the full release, that they're not gonna release the full game. They're not gonna even get to have the final build, beta build, or even alpha build. They probably would even might even send the minimal viable product, I
Yeah.
think, which shows just the basis of what the game should look like and how it should function. And to me, that's really, really sad because you have a very, very long period of time where you're dedicating hours and hours of your work week, yet at the end of it, you're gonna be getting something that's not
Mm.
finished. Mm. And it's on top of that, not only is it not finished, but then they're gonna send in expansions or, like, DLC that are, quote, "fixes" for those.
Yeah. They're like, here, suffer with this for now. We'll be sending fixes, but just for now, just suffer with how the way it is for now. Okay.
It's I mean, a perfect example that I can think of, I mean, because we were talking about it personally, Street Fighter V.
Yeah.
The base game of Street Fighter V, everybody hated. They thought that it was terrible, the roster was terrible, the story mode is awful, everything about it was terrible, but then the Champion Edition came out, where more characters were released. Um, I don't think online multiplayer was better, but just more characters released, a bigger roster, um, the inclusion of some other features, other stages, more music or something. And as a company and as a person, I don't want to have to spend an extra amount of money to have an enhanced version and better version of the game if, you know, if it already has the ability to be
Hmm.
better. You know, if it already has the ability to be better, why not just release the full thing with everything?
Honestly, yeah. Like, how much more work would it be to just make it finished? Like,
I guess that kind of comes into like I guess companies evaluate it just to see how the base game goes, and if the base game tanks, then they release something else on the side of it to make it
mm,
better or make it seem
yeah,
better because 'cause they're adding more characters and, an update.
yeah,
Because I don't know, we kind of went off tangent a little bit from, the games industry, but it kinda makes sense because talking about this right now, it's relevant because I'm planning on going into this industry, and if I'm able to evaluate of some concerns of these communities, then I'll be able to better understand the audience and be able to apply what I've heard and what I've learned to the company that I work for, because then I'll be able to let them know what the audience is thinking or feeling and let them know, you know, some of their desires. Because if you don't meet player expectations, then that overall is gonna make your game tank more than anything.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm trying to think about I keep going back to MVCI. A lot of people had such high hopes for that game, and it did not exceed expectations. I mean, a lot of people were upset with it.
Yeah.
But then you got a game like Elden Ring, and that blows past everybody's
Yeah. I was gonna
expectations.
say I feel like that like blew by what everybody thought. Like, I don't know. I guess that to me feels like a pretty complete game. There's not any DLCs or anything with it, is there?
They're developing
Okay.
DLC for it.
I feel like the base game alone.
It's currently under
I feel like the base
production.
game alone is well, is more than good enough.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the game itself is so vast, and there are so many places to explore, dungeons there are so many places to explore, dungeons to go do, weapons to gain, side quests to do, like, there's so much in the main game to do already that it feels like it's impossible to come up with DLC, but from what I've seen for FromSoft games as a whole, they like adding DLC and expansions to their
Mhm.
games. They've had expansions since basically the first Dark
Oh wow.
Souls. They had, expansions for the games. Um, I mean, Dark Souls 1 had expansions, Dark Souls 2 had expansions, Bloodborne has an expansion, and, Dark Souls 3 has an
Mm,
expansion. Has expansions, I should say.
yeah.
And it's not when I say expansions, I don't mean, you know, something you can just go and get done with quick and then it's done, you know? It's not its own it's like a separate area that has its own story that you go and complete.
Yeah.
And that's something I really, really like that Destiny kinda does, is it makes you go to these places and actually have a separate story that goes along with the game. And to me, it's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you're gonna do a DLC, like make it like a whole separate game. Don't like make it add on to the base game. Make it like a whole separate game, whole new story, like all that sort of stuff. Make it worth the money, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely, and I'm trying to think, 'cause I remember there was a game that I had that was very similar to that, and I can't think of it right now because it was, I think it was on Xbox 360 or something, and it just felt like it really did. It felt like a majority of the game was lost because if you are adding an expansion and you're making this as a separate area, don't have it as, like, just a separate area you can walk around and visit. Have it be not just a separate area, but it's an area where the story is different or
Mhm.
continues from the base game. Because if you add that aspect to it, then players are gonna are gonna be more inclined to get that
Yeah.
DLC. It's why I want to purchase the DLC for Bloodborne because it is such a cool expansion. I mean, it's not something you can get done in a couple minutes. This is gonna take, at least from what I've seen, it's gonna take a couple hours
Mhm.
because the expansion itself, you wake up in this place called the Hunter's Nightmare, and you have to walk through. You are fighting and battling blood-drunk hunters, and from there, you travel through a very decrepit, corrupted version of Yharnam. Yet as you travel through, you start to see weird, like very, very strange rivers and architecture, and then pretty soon you'll find yourself in a kind of like a fishing town, and it's very, very fascinating and very, very cool. And having something like that as a part of DLC is very, very crucial, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
Because I don't want it just to be if I make DLC, I don't want it to just be something that, you can go check out, have a character and mess around with them a little bit, be like, "Oh, okay, done." No, this is something I would like the player to be
Hmm.
invested. I want the player to like my game so much that once I release it, they'll be like, "Well, what is it?" Kind of like, kinda like Shovel Knight, because the base game was Shovel of Hope,
Okay.
and then they initially released the other, iterations of the games as separate games. So, you had Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope, Plague of Shadows, I can't think of the one with Spectre Knight, I can't remember that one. But then the newest one that came out a couple years ago, which was King of Cards, and to have expansions like that added to your game as separate add-ons to buy is really cool, but also to have some if you buy the game this other version of the game, which is Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, then you already bought basically the ultimate version of the game. So, basically, you have the first game, Shovel of Hope, but then as the devs are releasing the rest of the game as, like, separate campaigns, you get those for
Hmm.
free, which I think was a really cool
Yeah,
idea.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, what would if you were to design a DLC expansion or something for your post-apocalyptic game, what would you want it to be exactly? Would you want it to be like traveling to another island or another location?
Yeah, I'd probably do like a whole new map and everything. Like at the base game have like its own map, and then have the DLC be like a whole new area, whole new map, new new like people to meet and all that. Um, like honestly, probably like base game would be like somewhere in the U.S. would be like one state or like one city in like the surrounding area, and then the DLC would probably be like a new city, I guess. Um, so it'd still be like the same sort of basic premise like the game was, but it'd probably just be like a new city, new area. Um, I'd probably try to like hype it up.
I Yeah, I actually kinda wanna build off that, and I would say do something that would be like, what is it? Do something that PlayStation's Resistance did. Basically, have you travel to different cities during the apocalypse, and then have the expansion where you go to another I would say go to another country where something happened and you fight different or, uh, new versions of
Hmm.
enemies, I would say. 'Cause I would say Resistance is kinda like, uh, I don't wanna s Resistance is a very different game. The Resistance games on PlayStation were, interesting because it was like there was like an it's like an alien invasion, almost like Halo, but it was a very different way where people were infected with a virus, like an alien
Oh,
virus, and then from there, they the first infected person was able to hone and refine the, I guess if you want to call it incubation chamber, and we're able to make more of this particular type of alien, which were called the Chimera. And it started out in, let me do a quick Google search just so I don't mess it up. I think it was World War II.
oh,
I think it started out in World War II. See, it was Resistance, Fall of Man was the first one. And yep, it says alternate history, British resistance. Do-do-do-do-do. Love doing this. Uh, mhm. It is not. Oh, England prepares. 1951, so right after World War II, which is crazy to think
yeah,
about. But yeah, basically, if you have a game, if you take your post-apocalyptic game and yeah, start off in this one area and have missions where you have to travel to different states or different cities in order to survive or help certain bases, that'd be pretty cool. And then have the expansion be where you get a distress signal and you go to another country and you're able to help out with whatever is going on over there.
yeah, that'd be cool. Um, Fallout New Vegas kind of did something like that with their DLCs is where if you didn't have the DLCs, um, you wouldn't get the certain radio signals, but if you got one of the DLCs, there's a certain radio signal where you would follow that, and then it also get put like a point on your map, and you could go to that point. And once you got there, um, you could enter like the new area or whatever for the DLC. It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That does sound really cool. Um, I'd also say the only I wouldn't say the only issue. Because I guess, like, my brain is moving, like, fast forwarding to and thinking about it in a production sort of sense, and initially, when I'm thinking about it, it feels like it's a lot to try and do, but then, you know, after if I'm thinking about it from the sense that, after the game is released, then technically you would have time to get that expansion all set and finished,
Yeah.
and then release it digitally to the public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was at first was thinking, "Man, that just seems like a lot of work."
Yeah.
'Cause you're already thinking about DLCs, then, you gotta think about an expansion how you can build upon or expand that story.
Yeah. It's like it already took a lot of work to build the base game. It's like how can we add to it and make it like even better? But
Elden
yeah.
Ring. Yeah, their new actually, let me take a look and tell you what their DLC is gonna be called. It's gonna be called, Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Oh, that's a cool name.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds awesome. But, I guess another point I wanna bring up is, as far as game production and development goes, the biggest issue running into that I have found when running into that I've run into, sorry, is, trying not to compare. because, as a game company and as a game engineer and as humans, we can't help but compare what we do, who we are, and our products and what we've done to that of others. But the thing is you can't quite do that in the video game world because if you do that, then you're gonna set yourself up for failure
Hmm.
in a sense. Because I kinda did that when I was looking at, some of the games that were being shown off in class. Because I mean, the pixel artwork that some of these people did was
Oh,
insane. I mean, if you like, really good NES quality.
wow.
Yeah. It was really, really insane. And then I looked at what we had, and at first, I felt when I was presenting it, I felt pretty embarrassed and a little I don't know, a little unsure of myself at first, but then right at the end of the semester, when the veil kind of lifted and, we all could be a class again and could talk about everything, it just it felt so nice to get that reassurance from somebody where they come up and be like, "Oh, man, your game looks so
Hmm.
great." And I did. I had people pointing and I'm not trying to brag, I don't mean to, but I had people pointing at me at the very end being like, "You did all the programming? You did that?" And I would look and be like, "Yeah, I did. I did all the programming, I helped with most of the cutscenes, and did all the auto-saving, screen transitions,
Yeah.
everything." And yeah, and to I don't know, after having the competition go away, it's, having that kind of humanity about it made it feel so different. It made the environment and made the product that we made, the game that we made, feel more special.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm actually really curious because I kind of, as like a little side note, I really think it'd be cool to like go into business with you as far as like a game developer standpoint.
Yeah.
If, because that kind of is my long-term goal is to, after working in the industry for a few years, to branch off and make my own company and do my own
Hmm.
games. So I think it would be really cool to, I guess, like have your input on some
Yeah.
things.
That'd be so cool. Yeah, I'd love to do that. That'd be awesome.
Speaking of, I guess, would you be interested? Because I'm still in the works of figuring things out for one of the games I want to make. Would you be interested in, I guess, when all this blows over, uh, being a part of this small team that I have of people wanting to help make my
Yeah,
game?
that'd be fun. Yeah. I'd like to. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, because then you'd be able to help me figure out some level layout because I have the document all set and ready. It just needs to be taken a look
Mm,
at.
okay.
Yeah, and basically like the levels need to be adapted, and I already have some of the artwork from one of the artists that I have, and it looks really really good.
Cool. Yeah. I'll definitely have to see it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I wanted to do. Trying to find some good music because I think, at least for me, I think this is a good stopping
Yeah.
point. Alrighty, so thank you all so much for joining us on this week's episode of Mash and Carv Radio. Please join us next time, whenever that may be, because this has been a lot of fun talking about all sorts of video game development, video game, what we would like to see in video games, and some of the issues with modern day games. So, thank you all again for listening to this week's episode of Mash and Carv Radio, and we will see you next